Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and start. This is the Community Consolidated School District Board of Education meeting Wednesday, March 6, 2024, beginning here at 6 p.m. at Frederick School. I need a call to order through a roll call, please.
Mack.
Here.
Braden. Here. Albert. Here. Nash. Absent. LaCroix.
Here.
Miller. Here. And Weedman.
Here.
Okay, thank you. We have quorum. Please join me for the pledge. Okay, I need a motion to approve this evening's agenda, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay.
Miller. Aye. Mack.
Aye.
Albert.
Aye.
Weedman. Braden. Aye. And LaCroix.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Do we have anybody signed up for no public comment on that end? Okay, we'll move straight to board reports. I can start down here this time. Mrs. Miller?
He started the right spot.
Mr. Weedman? Then Mrs. Miller?
Okay, just a quick update on the community cafe. So I don't know if you remember, but originally we had wanted to have one on April 30th. We've decided to change the format a little bit. So we're gonna focus on one-to-one interviews and conversations between families, focusing specifically on our newcomer families and impact families, and see if we can connect them with other families who have been here for 3 years or more and therefore are not newcomers. And then once those interviews are done and those one-to-one relationships are either supported or built, then in the fall, that's when we'll try to call everyone together in a large group. So just an update on that. If you had April 30th on your calendar, you can take that off. Second thing is the CEC, the Community Engagement Committee has just started the limiting beliefs training, and that is something that they're working on to uncover, think about unconscious bias and try to kind of unpack it. So if you see those volunteers, just know that they're going through that right now. So that's it.
I do not have anything this evening. Mrs. Braden?
I just wanted to share that our friends at the Library Foundation is having their fundraiser on Saturday night. It's called Pouring Over Pages. There's always great art, there's always great people, there's always great things happening. I think there's wine in the library. I'll be there. Hope you'll join me.
I have quite a lot to say, so I'll try to keep it brief. So first off, I've been able to attend more lunchtime things. Besides the book study recently, there's the IASB Advocacy Ambassador webinars. And so there was one last week, and they talked a lot about position statements and how they clearly guide the IASB. And for example, they're paying close attention to any mandate relief proposals. So good for us to know about. They're very judicious with their calls to action. So when we get any in our inbox, they're kind of rare, and that's because they think carefully and they look at all these position statements and suggest that we do those call to actions. They showed us how to fill out witness slips and talked about the importance of them. And they noted that the committee sponsoring the bill does look at the numbers of opponents and proponents. And then they also mentioned that they're seeing a lot of momentum to deal with the pension issue. So we're glad they're working on that, the whole state. So, and I wanted to share, moving on to a different topic, I recently learned that CEDAW is using staff feedback and architects' expertise to design outdoor learning environments at Fairhaven and in between Sidlash Academy and Laramont. And their upcoming HVAC system upgrade at the admin building will be geothermal and use renewable energy credits. And I just want to call attention to that because I'm proud of Lake County and different school districts, including ours, that are looking at all the ways to pay attention to the 3 E's: equity, environment, economics, or people, pennies, planet. Now moving on, Foundation 46, they're gearing up for Barn Fest, April 20th, where nominees and awardees of the Tom Meskel Commitment to Education Award will be recognized. And they are looking to recruit new members. So if you know anybody, any individuals interested in that commitment, please connect them to the foundation. And then last, I want to thank the musicians and staff for the beautiful Frederick concert last night. And good luck to the 6th graders at their contest this Friday. Thanks.
Thank you for the wonderful segue into my comments tonight. I learned from the Illinois State Board of Education's Twitter feed that March is Music in Our Schools Month. So I thought it would be a good time to take this opportunity to reiterate my support for music education in this district. Even though I no longer have a child participating in the band anymore, no longer playing French horn in any way, which saddens me, but I still am a big believer in music education. I'm proud of the music education our district offers. Music education has a lot of intrinsic benefits, right? It fosters creativity, builds confidence, instills discipline in creating that craft. And sadly, it's true that there are some kids who, but for music and chorus and other fine arts programs, they don't get out of bed in the morning and come to school. So I'm very proud of the music education our district offers, and I just wanted to say Happy Music in Our Schools Month. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That brings us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Glickman.
It's as though we planned it all together to talk about music tonight. We did not. But I, too, was at the Frederick Band concert last night and was truly amazed, although not amazed because we've seen it so often before, right? But how far our 5th graders had come, and then to see our 6th graders, and imagine that, wow, just a year and a half prior, they didn't know how to blow a horn at all. They were really just magnificent, and I'm so proud of them. We also, staying with the arts for the moment, we had a wonderful production of Annie last week over at Park Campus. I got to hear a little excerpt of that today. Thank you so much, Dr. Lorenzo, for that. Oh, she didn't sing, but
It was my daughter.
it was her daughter. It was really fantastic. And while we are talking about arts, we know that the art show has started over in the library, and there are evenings organized for every one of our schools. So first of all, anybody can go at any time. I actually took a quiet moment to go take a look at things when there was hardly anybody there, which was very nice too, right? Because then you get to be by yourself with the art. But if you want to be there with people, a lot of people, Thursday, tomorrow night from 6:30 to 7:30, Park Campus will be showcased with art teachers from Park over there. March 12th, next week, on the 12th, 6:30 to 7:30, we're highlighting GMS and Avon. Wednesday of next week, 6:30 to 7:30, is Meadowview and Woodview. And then the following Tuesday, March 18th, 6:30 to 7:30, is Prairie View and Frederick. But again, if you can't make it to any of those, just roll on into the library because it's fantastic. Moving on, I want to give my GMS update, as I've been doing the last number of meetings. So the gym floor is well underway. I think when I was here 2 weeks ago, I shared that it was just getting started. It's in great shape. All of the floor is in. The bleachers need to be reinstalled, and it needs to be sanded and painted. Finishing has to all be done, but the floor is going to be in good shape. Some of the coils for the univents have come in. Some of them have not come in, but work has begun in classrooms where the coils have come in, and we are still on track for completion by April 26th. That's still our date. And we continue to be so appreciative of the community and flexibility. every one of our schools in some way has been impacted by what's happened. Here we sit in Frederick School, and we know we have so many of our athletes here on a daily basis. I understand that wrestling is those wrestling mats are about to be rolled up here at Frederick, but our wrestlers have been over here. We've had basketball and volleyball, and band over here at Frederick. And then this weekend, Mr. LaCroix was mentioning, I think it was you, Jason, maybe it was Jessica, who mentioned our students who are competing this weekend. Somebody did. So the IGSMA contest is this week at Park, and usually that's over at GMS, but we're grateful to Park for welcoming us there. So that's about GMS. You may notice, Board, that we are a little bit light in terms of administration tonight. We are missing 3 of our members who couldn't be here. One of them is Dr. Chris Woke, and I just wanted to share with you where he is because he's representing all of us. He's been attending job fairs for the last couple of weeks. Over the past 2 weeks, Dr. Woke has been traveling the state, attending several teacher career fairs. Last week, the district was represented at Northern Illinois University Fair and the joint U of I Eastern Illinois Fair. Tonight, the district is being represented at the virtual Illinois Association of School Personnel Administrators Fair, which does attract candidates from across the country and across the state. And tomorrow, we will be represented at Illinois State University Fair. Earlier this year, the district was at the University of Illinois Chicago Diversity Fair and the Higher Lake County Job Fair. So we're really glad, and we appreciate Dr. Woke putting on his roller skates and heading out to all those places. And I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Lorenzo to talk about a student services review meeting that we had recently.
As a reminder, we embarked on an opportunities review for our student services department across the district, and that was it started in the summer, and they've done a ton of work in the fall, which led to some initial findings come January. We had some building issues, so we had to push out a meeting with our what they call a guiding coalition, which is a team of building district administrators and a couple of union leadership members. And so we pushed that out a couple weeks ago, and we met to start looking at our action plan, and we're really looking forward to presenting the findings and the skeleton of what we really think is going to be a nice action plan moving forward on the April 10th board meeting.
And last but not least, Amy Gluck, if you would please talk with us about ISA.
Yeah, so good evening. So we started the Illinois Science Assessment today. That is for students in 5th and 8th grades. And it is 3 days, and we tested today, we'll test tomorrow, and we'll test on Friday. This assessment is 60 minutes in length, so pretty short assessment in terms of state assessment. And we will get the results when they send back our state assessment results, so typically the end of the summer.
Yep, exactly. Thank you, and that is it for the superintendent's report tonight.
Thank you very much, everybody. That brings us to our consent agenda. I need a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda, which also includes the personnel addendum that was sent earlier this afternoon.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay.
Braden,
Aye.
LaCroix,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
and Weedman.
Aye.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We have a good list of action items this evening, at the end of which I think there's cake, so we'll get through that quickly here. Okay. The first action item on our list is a motion to approve the 2024-2025 school calendar waiving legal holidays as required under Public Act 096-0640, which includes Veterans Day, November 11th, President Lincoln's birthday, February 12th, and Kazimir Pulaski's birthday, March 4th, in order to hold school.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Weedman,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Braden,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
and Albert.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. The second, I need a motion to approve the contract renewal with GSF nighttime custodial services for the 2024-2025 school year as presented to us.
So moved.
I'll second.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Braden,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
and Weedman.
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you. The next is a motion to approve the 2024-2025 contract renewal with Forward Edge for the managed cybersecurity services as presented to us.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Albert,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Braden,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
and Weedman.
Aye.
Thank you very much. The next is a motion to approve the letter of agreement for crossing guard duty.
I'll move. Oh.
I'll second.
Want me to talk about that?
Sure, go ahead, yeah.
Be happy to. So this year, administration has been in conversation with our PSRP union to talk about the safety needs of some of our schools and the fact that we do need to assign people in some of our schools to provide safety for children. And that includes crossing children and parents and other guardians at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. We have come to an agreement with the union that that work can be ongoing with members of our custodial staff with some caveats. One is providing appropriate training, which we indeed have been doing, and another is including additional compensation for the custodial staff that's doing that work. So the agreement we've come upon is an additional $12 per hour, which is on top of the regular salary that those individuals are being compensated with. And this agreement would go from actually retroactive from the beginning of this year, because indeed we have been providing those safe environments for our children, and our custodians have been crossing the children and guardians and parents. So it'll be retroactive from the beginning of the year and will terminate at the end of the current collective bargaining agreement at the end of the 24-25 school year. And it's my recommendation.
Comments?
So I just have a couple comments, because like many people, we get our water bill, we get our newsletters from the village of Grays Lake if we live here. And sometimes there are the charts that show how much each taxing district, how much of our money goes to each taxing district. And I've also paid attention to some other notices in those newsletters, and there was one recently, either January or February of this year, that mentioned it was like a job request for crossing guard duty. And I've noticed that and it was a request from the village of Grays Lake. But in our accounts payable reports, we pay for that same crossing guard duty. And I'm just wondering, it seems like we are paying at least half of the cost of that crossing guard person, that job. So I'm wondering if the village would be so inclined as to inform the public that we are also paying for part of that job. I also wonder how much of the responsibility is on municipalities and how much is on school districts throughout the state. And is that something that we need to possibly advocate for as a group? And just,
Can I just offer a point of clarification? So the letter of agreement between administration and the PSRP union on behalf of custodians is not for those positions that you're talking about. So I just want to make sure you understand that. So actually, about a year ago, or maybe it was early in the fall, I think it was early in the fall, it was, Mr. Wildman and Mr. Ochoa and I went to meet with the village to ask for more crossing guards, and they weren't able to extend more crossing guards to us. They do provide one at, right across the street here, right across, to get children safely across to Frederick. And I think probably that's the one that was being advertised for. And yes, we indeed do pay the village for a portion of that crossing guard. And I think that's what you're referring to. This $12 an hour is for positions that the village doesn't fill at all and that we are responsible for. We would like another entity to take on that responsibility, but they have not done that.
Is it not also true that some of the crossing guard duty that we have isn't on a public thoroughfare, but rather our own driveways where there might be a sidewalk crossing a driveway of ours? I'm thinking particularly at Woodview School where
Yes.
I see crossing guards out there on our driveways,
Yes.
not crossing a street or of a public thoroughfare.
Yeah, that's true too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Aye.
Sorry. Mack,
Aye.
Braden,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
and Weedman.
Aye.
Very good, thank you very much. And the last motion we have this evening is a motion to approve Josh Higgins as the principal of Woodview School. I need a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
May I introduce
Please do.
Mr. Higgins?
Please
Okay.
do.
So I know we have a wonderful, well, first of all, we have a number of people here tonight to welcome Mr. Higgins. So we're so glad that you're here, Woodview staff, thank you. And Mrs. Santelli, thank you so much for being here. It's hard to be saying goodbye to you, and it's so lovely that you're here to welcome the person who's going to stand in your shoes. So thank you for that. I know Kelly Berenbaum has a few words to say about Mr. Higgins. Kelly, am I correct that you're not speaking about his history? Is that correct? A little bit? Well, then in that case, wonderful. So you know what? I'm not going to say another word. I'm just going to introduce you. So go ahead, Mrs. Kelly Berenbaum. Thank you for being here tonight.
Okay, thank you first to the administration for letting teachers be a part of the process when selecting a new principal for Woodview. Although our staff is sad to see Mrs. Santelli retire, we are very excited to see what our new chapter brings. With that being said, I'm pleased to have this opportunity to introduce Mr. Josh Higgins as the new principal for Woodview School. I believe the most important thing that we learned about Josh during our interview is that he wants to be involved with every aspect of the Woodview community. As Woodview is a family, it came across through the interview that Josh has worked very hard at his current school to also create an atmosphere of community and involvement. While speaking with Josh, the other Woodview staff members and myself were encouraged by the collaboration with teachers and parents that Josh spoke about at his current school. If you know anything about Woodview, we pride ourselves on working together to make Woodview the best school possible. We are excited to have the opportunity to collaborate with Josh to continue our family-like atmosphere that our teachers are used to and that our parents and students have come to expect from us. The staff members who spoke with Josh during his interview also were very happy to see his extensive work with PBIS and the MTSS process. Josh spoke about fostering consistent expectations and student recognition for positive behavior and being able to reach the needs of our students through the MTSS process by working together with staff and students to find the best ways our students learn. Again, this collaborative process made us feel like Josh would be a great fit for Woodview. With all of that, please help me welcome Josh Higgins to our Woodview family.
Wow. That was awesome, Kelly. Thank you. And I'm simply just going to add, for anyone who hasn't read anything about Josh's background, anyone who's watching our stream tonight, that Mr. Higgins is coming to us from having worked at Killdeer District 96 as the assistant principal of Killdeer School for the past 5 years. Prior to that, he had a robust experience as an elementary school teacher and a coach. And we're just so glad that you are here. So thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
Mack,
Aye.
Braden,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
and Weedman.
Aye.
Congratulations, Mr. Higgins. Mrs. Santelli, I want to add my voice to Dr. Glickman's. I want to thank you for your service and leadership of Woodview all these years. I know 2 of my children felt valued, loved, and deeply appreciated at Woodview when they went through, and my youngest, who is a proud and fine Frederick Falcon, really misses being at Woodview. I can tell you that right now. So thank you for everything you've done for my family and countless families around the community. I appreciate you. And now, do we suspend everything for cake? It's suspended.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna, if anyone's watching our stream, we're going to be taking a pause because we're gonna have cake, and we'll be back soon.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed the cake, and we are back live and streaming again. That moves us now, after those action items, to our unfinished business. We have 2 items this evening that we are discussing. No action is going to be taken at this meeting. The first one is a referendum update. I'll pass it back over to Dr. Glickman.
Thank you so much. Okay. So, as you know, we are finished with our meetings for our community. We're very glad to have created a video that is available online, so anybody who didn't get a chance to come to one of the community meetings or simply wants a refresher is very welcome to take a look at that on our website. We just sent out our newsletter today, and it's kind of front and center and easy to get to. I want to pause, though, and mention that we keep getting the same feedback over and over again when we communicate with people about the referendum, which is that it's too difficult to understand, that there's so much information and it's so complicated and people have difficulty understanding it, which we know. And we keep trying in so many different ways to explain things, and honestly, it's much more, it's very helpful to do it one-to-one and for people to ask questions, and we hope that people still will, because there's still a couple of more weeks before before Election Day, although voting has already started. But I wanted to take a moment right now to, in a non-monetary way, explain why the tax rate will go down even with a past referendum. Usually we explain that with money attached to it. We use words like equalized assessed value. We use all kinds of highfalutin terms. But today I'm just going to say it in a really simple way, which is this. 19 years ago, the community said yes to a referendum. And because of that yes, we were able to build Park Campus. For the last 19 years, we've been paying that bill off. There's lots of other ways to say that, but that's a simple way to say it. We've been paying off the bill for Park Campus. This new tax rate will come on after Park Campus is finished being paid for. And in fact, the new amount is less than what we've been paying for Park. So here's what was being paid for Park. I'm going to put my hand right in front of my face. Here's the new rate, and it's less. And that is why the rate goes down. So that is the non-monetary, folksy way of explaining it. And that's what I wanted to share. We hope that people will still go to our website to look at the FAQ, to look at the video that I just mentioned, where we do our full presentation with lots of money attached and lots of explanation. We hope that people will go to our website to take a look at the excellence video that we created. That's kind of a short version of everything that's needed in the school district and why, what the money would go for, and again, an explanation about the tax rate. We hope people go to our website to read our FAQ. We hope people will look at the mailers that have come home, because that have been mailed home. There are 2 at least that have gone home, and there's another one that is about to come out. It's just a postcard. It should be coming into people's mailboxes, I would say in the next week probably, and it has really simple explanation on it as well. So we hope that folks will take a look at all of that information and make their own decision that's best for them. Election Day is on March 19th, but early voting has already started, as has vote by mail. And that is the end of the referendum update.
Thank you, Dr. Glickman. Appreciate that. The next item on our unfinished business list is the gun safety resolution. Mrs. Braden, are you handling that one?
Yeah, so just as context and history, we talked about this piece of it at our last meeting, but our the local community members who are part of Moms Demand Action have met with Dr. Glickman and myself to talk about support for and being vocal about particularly gun safety. And so as we had that conversation, there were really two outcomes. One was communication and ensuring that when we have opportunities to have gun safety resources on hand at an event through tabling, et cetera, that we do that. We have information on our website. And there are free gun locks available, and so, you know, we've had tables at events where people can come, and I think they said 100 gun locks had been distributed into our community, which is fantastic. So the other ask they had was there are a few other districts in the area who have put together a resolution just kind of stating this board's position on gun violence and specific legislation that we think would be helpful in creating safer schools for teachers and students. And so that was the conversation we had last time. You all said that you were interested in looking at a resolution. So I did put one together that you have emailed to you, as well as I think linked to the agenda. It's a draft. I'm very open to feedback. I'll tell you how I put it together. I was able to have a conversation with another board member from another district who talked to us about their process, their motivations for creating a resolution, and she sent me quite a few resolutions from other districts in this area. So there's really, I took that as a starting point, and so I kind of put one together, and then I looked at the others to see what others had done that might be applicable to us. So basically what I have is the whereases, which is the whereases part kind of states, here's the situation. The ones that I think are most important for us is that the number of shooting deaths and shootings, you know, even since 2024, there's been 8 school shootings. So that's like almost 3 per month. That's almost 1 per week since we came back from break. Leading cause of death among children and teens in Illinois, everywhere, but also in Illinois. And also the whereases talk about how gun violence heightens children's risk of post-traumatic stress, social competence, school problems, all kinds of things that are related to their achievement, which we are about, as well as the potential for gun violence and continued lockdown training that we need to do affect the emotional and academic well-being of not just our students, but our staff, who carry that burden of kids in the classroom. And then it really strikes at the heart of our mission. So I thought that was important to add for us to say, hey, if we are about empowering learners, creating equity, and cultivating community, we have to be safe. We have to ensure that our schools are safe. So those are most of the whereases. I also listed some of the policies that we have in place around violence prevention, just to kind of say this is where it lives in our policy. So the resolution has a few parts. Some of it is about just aligning with some of the larger medical organizations in the country in urging labeling gun violence as a national public health epidemic, because right now it's not. It's not labeled as a public health epidemic, even though it's a leading cause of death. And so if it was labeled as such, we could fund research. We could fund research through CDC and NIH into it. Right now, that's not happening. There is a piece about Illinois has already banned assault weapons. There's a piece calling on U.S. Congress, providing immunity for manufacturers of repeal anything requiring immunity to liability for manufacturers, liability for straw buyers and sellers who sell to straw buyers, so kind of the loophole, so to speak. Background checks, safe storage. We know that Illinois has some great laws, but they can always be better. Mandating training as a condition for selling or possessing firearms, raising the legal purchase age, making sure that we're using clear and present danger reporting and data and screen applicants for FOID cards. It does say that we're adamantly opposed to arming teachers and staff in schools. It makes that pretty clear. It also talks about funding for mental health, appropriate staffing numbers to meet student social emotional needs, encouraging law enforcement to seek firearm restraining orders for individuals identified as a threat, and better funding for school threat assessment programs to make sure that we can identify students who are at risk of violence and support them. So that's what it is, and the numbers that I got at the beginning that just kind of have what's happened this year and some of the data around, deaths, et cetera, are from everytown.org. They have a great database where you can go. You can actually download a great PDF of just what's going on in Illinois around this issue and where we stand related to the rest of the country. So, interested in your feedback, pushback, additions, deletions, and what you think.
Well, thank you for carrying the ball on this. I'm glad that you went through the reasoning that you went through on the different parts of the resolution. I think it's well put together. I think it's a strong statement that I am enthusiastic to make. Thank you, Christy.
No edits? No edits? Others?
I gave you a couple of my comments earlier today in an email that we went back and forth with. Just want to make sure that we, there is nothing in here asking for us to for the government to come around and taking people's guns away from them. That's not what we're asking for. We're asking for funding to make our schools safer. We're asking for people to be responsible with the guns that they do have as far as storage and gun locks. We're not looking to advocate for the government to come into your house and take your guns away. So we want to make sure that that is clear to anybody who may be listening or going to listen later. That's not the intention behind this. This is to help us, as Christy told me earlier today, make a nice, safe school environment for our kids so that they can come to school without fear. And that's the main gist and the main reason behind the resolution. That's
Jim,
all I have.
I'm so glad you said that. I think it's so important. I feel like the one thing that no matter how you interpret the Second Amendment, that safe gun storage should be something we can all agree on. And, the safer we have the guns that exist in our community are in the right hands of the right people who keep them safe, the less likely they are to come to our schools. And I think that's really, really important. And the less likely our students are to get a hold of them accidentally or for purposes of harming themselves. And I think that's actually a really, really important piece of this that we talked about a couple weeks ago as well. So I'm really glad you brought that up. This is about, if you own firearms, you have a responsibility to be safe with them and to be responsible.
So thank you also for putting this together. I was reading through some of the other schools, and I don't remember exactly which ones were which, but two of the things that caught my eye were the idea of increased staffing for just violence prevention in general. So that when we have enough teachers in our buildings, then kids are more likely to have one-on-one relationships with them, and that fosters a sense of belonging, which is gun violence in general prevention. So I liked the idea of some sort of language around that, and if you have it in there and I missed it, I'm sorry, and then also the idea of wraparound services for our students is also violence prevention. And then the second one I was just curious about is the Be Smart program, because I feel like that has an educational bent to it. Then I was thinking about our discussion about the pesticide and coal tar sealant notifications that we send out to people, wondering if maybe there's a bundle of like keeping our kids safe in school and here's some things to think about or something like that. So just an idea, not a request, but I like that.
Yeah, thank you for leading us in this process and putting all the work into figuring out what the resolution could look like. One thing that I wondered was, do we want to define what secure and safe storage is very clearly? Because I think it was one of the incidents in Virginia where there was a headline that said the gun was safely stored, but in fact it wasn't. It was considered safely stored by being up on a shelf in a closet, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like unlocked or locked, or what am I trying to say? You know what I mean, gun safety locks and unloaded. So maybe we want to add that in there as a piece of education, so.
I don't think I have anything to add that has not already been stated by my colleagues. So as Mr. LaCroix said, I would enthusiastically support it, and thank you for going through the footwork of getting that to us.
I have a couple ideas for edits, so thank you, and I'll add those, I'll see where we can add those in. And Jim had another great question, which is like, okay, what do we do after we pass a resolution? What does that do? My intention would be to not just send that to our legislators, our federal and state legislators, but also to invite a conversation with them about their advocacy on behalf of the things that we need to make our schools safe. And so I think that could be, again, it's funding, right? So it's still that theme of how are you helping the state allocate the right amount of money for us to fulfill our promise to our students by keeping them safe and feeling safe so they can actually achieve what we want them to achieve. So my thought would be that we can use it to have those conversations, and then when it's time to talk about IASB, if we have energy around one of these for IASB, for an IASB resolution, we can talk about that at that time.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have one new business item this evening, discussion of a sustainability advisory committee, and I'm going to turn that over to Mrs. Miller.
Thank you. So we have talked on and off for the past several years about convening a sustainability advisory committee. And it occurred to me, and probably to you, that we have a lot of meetings already. And so I have an alternate proposal that I would love just for everyone to think about until we come back to our next meeting. So rather than convening a committee and having that be on a separate night, a separate hour, a separate, need for coordination and minutes and everything, what if we kind of did in the next 3 meetings what we did today with cake, but instead of having cake, we could have cake too, but instead of cake, we, at the beginning of our meeting, take 20 minutes and answer a question about sustainability. So one of those questions might be, what's everybody else doing? And take a look at those together, but use everyone, because everyone at this table and in our seating probably has a perspective that would be valuable. So we could spend 20 minutes, break into small groups, look at what other schools are doing, other districts are doing, come back together, and then look for what are the common definitions of sustainability, what are the common practices that have been effective. So for 20 minutes next meeting, and then the 2 meetings after, and the 2 meetings after the next meeting would have different questions. So at the end of those 3 consecutive meetings, 20-minute conversations, we would have at least the beginning of an awareness of other school districts' climate action plans and sustainable management plans. We could develop a shared understanding of what we mean by sustainability by taking a look at what's already going on, and create an inventory of those things, so we have a shared understanding, and then perhaps start to think about what we want to monitor. When we look at all 3 categories of sustainability, we're looking at the social aspects, which is equity, we're looking at the environmental impacts, and then also the financial impacts. So a lot of those are in place, but it would be nice to have them in a cohesive package. And the reason that I think that might be helpful is because our health and life safety report indicated that they couldn't do a lot with sustainability because we haven't given them direction yet. So I am wondering if instead of convening a committee, we could commit to 3 20-minute conversations during board meetings, since we're all in the same room anyway. And I would welcome your feedback on that.
No, you and I had talked about this, and so I like the idea, so I would support it. I know that's kind of like a very plain answer, but but I like the idea of, the work we do doesn't necessarily always have to involve creating another committee. I like the idea of being able to pause in the middle of a board meeting when we're all engaged with members of the public here as well, who could potentially participate as well, and gather ideas together in that conversation. So I would support that.
I would support that too. I think it's such a broad topic. There are professors who spend a whole semester on the topic and defining it, and so it'd be great to engage with community members who happen to be in attendance, and I think if we do that, we have students coming at the next meeting too, and I would love to have student input on this. And just the more minds, the better, and even in that short time, I think there's a lot that we can gain from that type of conversation.
Yeah, my comments were more about the mechanics of it, generally aligned with the idea, but 20 minutes is a very short time, and, you know, we break, and then the first 5 minutes are, hey, how you doing? The last 5 minutes are, okay, everyone back to their seats, wrapping up conversations. Is there gonna be someone guiding this time? That's what I'm kind of wondering. Is there gonna be a structure to it? Otherwise, I'm not sure it'll be productive at 20 minutes at a time.
Yeah, thank you. I can create a structure and make sure there is one so that it's not a waste of time. I'd be happy to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
The only comment I would have is, if we don't, kind of along with Jason's comments about the short time of 20 minutes, what about just a working board meeting? That's the topic. And we have the student council, or student board members all attend the whole thing as well. Might get a little bit more out of it if we have instead of the, 2 board meetings in a month, one of them is just for that topic, and maybe it's limited to an hour and a half. And then the board can sit in on it, staff can sit on it, and the student membership can sit on it as well. It would be just a regularly scheduled board meeting it'd be a working board meeting, basically. It would be not this.
Does that replace an existing board meeting?
That would replace an existing board meeting, yes.
Is that feasible with the business we have to conduct?
I can share a little bit of information about that. So, as you know, I always prepare for what are upcoming board meetings, right? The next board meeting, very robust. We also have quite a lot scheduled for the April 10th. At this time, there is nothing specific scheduled for the April, I guess it's 24th? Yeah, 24th. I am sure that will change. Mr. Wildman's not here right now to say, wait a minute, but I think what we could certainly do, I'm sure there will be business, right, to do that night, but we could make sure that there's nothing else except for just approvals of contracts, those kinds of things that we have to get done, and we can just make sure that we're not doing presentations and such.
Yeah, and it may not have to be done in the next 3 meetings either. I mean, it could be like towards a little bit farther closer to the end of the school year. Doesn't have to be, I don't think you were saying it had to be in the next three meetings.
No.
If we have to
Right.
push it out to when we don't have much going on.
Yeah, summer meetings are quiet. Although summer meetings, though, we only have one every one a month, so then they're, yeah.
And
So-
when it starts to get into remember that all the student recognition.
Exactly. So April 24th might actually be the sweet spot, but what I can certainly do is, when we come back on March 20th, I'll have a better idea of what April 24th looks like. And if the board likes that plan, we can move forward with it. Oh, and I just had the idea that that's right around Earth Day.
I was saying that all along. You just weren't listening.
Jeez.
I think that sounds like a wonderful way to celebrate and be productive on Earth Day. So if everyone's game for that, okay, great idea. Thank you.
Have another piece of cake, everybody.
Good idea.
See what happens with sugar? All right, thank you, Mrs. Miller. Topics for future agenda items, which would include that conversation that we just had.
Yeah, hold on, I'm typing April 24th sustainability conversation. All right, so March 20th, we will be a little bit more raucous. We have wrestlers coming. We're excited about that. We have Way of the Panther students coming from GMS to talk with us. So we're expecting that they're going to be sharing information about what their experiences have been like over at GMS East. So I'm looking forward to that. And they'll be sitting at the board table, ready to participate. So there'll actually be a couple of things that they may be able to participate in. First of all, back to sustainability, we are doing a sustainability presentation. So that's not the board conversation, that's administration providing information about recent committee meetings that we've had. So that will be happening. And our students may have some thoughts to talk about regarding that. Also, we bumped this back many times because we wanted to have students at the table when we did it. The social media lawsuit conversation is scheduled for March 20th. Then Mr. Wildman will be coming to us with approval of a winning proposal for fixed service management. I believe that is the food service, I believe. And then I just wanted to clarify, board, are you wanting us to bring back the gun safety resolution on March 20th as something to vote on? Is that what we're doing, or is that not what we're doing? That's what we're doing. Yes? Okay. Okay, that's March 20th. April 10th, we have students again. Park Campus Leader of the Pack students will be coming. Then you heard earlier Dr. Lorenzo talk about the Student Services Review. So we have the DM group, who is those are the folks that did the review for us. They're coming to present. I think we'll have some other people presenting with them, so we're looking forward to that, sharing the findings from that report, that research, along with our next steps. And then Amanda Pelser has let me know that she thinks she'll be ready with a quote for security cameras for Frederick that night. So I wanted to ask you, Ward, typically we do things in 2 steps, where you hear about it at one meeting and then you vote on it in the next meeting. This will be the same conversation that you had a while back about Park Campus, and prior to that, GMS. So my question to you is, do you want us to do it in 2 steps, or do you want us just to bring you something to vote on? Yep, you can vote. Okay, and then because earlier I did my referendum update, I will just want to take the opportunity to mention that safety and security is one of the needs that's on the docket for the expenditures related to the referendum. One of those expenditures related to safety and security is security cameras. We have already funded new safety security cameras for GMS. We recently funded new ones for right here at, over at, hold on, I just lost it, over at Park Campus, and these are for Frederick right here. But that is all the funding that we had been able to set aside for security cameras. So we don't have funding currently for our 4K4 buildings, and if we want to do that's on the list for the referendum. And so that takes care of April 10th, and then we've just discussed April 24th, conversation about sustainability, along with potentially, some short items that we may have. Okay.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public comments signed up for the end? I don't think so. Nope. Okay, that brings us to the end of our regular meeting. We do have a closed session this evening, so I'm going to adjourn the board into closed session. I have to read for the purposes of Act 5 ILCS 120/2, subparagraph C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against any legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity, and Public Act 5 ILCS 120/2, subparagraph C21, discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by Section 2.06. We do not anticipate any business taking place after the closed session, so we will adjourn from the closed session completely. Thank you, everybody, for attending tonight. Congratulations, Mr. Higgins, once again. We do need a motion. to do that, actually.
I'll move.
Whatever.
I moved.
And who's second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Everybody up for grabs.
It's the cake.
LaCroy,
Supervisor wants me to stop doing
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
that. Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Weedman, and Braden.
Aye.